All right, guys, welcome back to the NLF Coaching Podcast. Today's guest is Eddie Saldana. Eddie, can you introduce yourself for us and talk to us a little bit about your bodybuilding?
I'm Eddie. I'm a natural bodybuilder. Been bodybuilding for about 15 years of my life. I won WMBF Worlds last year, the overall in the men's bodybuilding, which is probably the greatest accomplishment that most bodybuilders wish they could achieve. So it's I feel very honored to have that title, and I'm glad to be here talking to you guys.
Yeah, dude, we really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us today to talk about bodybuilding. What was that experience like with Worlds last year? I mean, you've competed. Was that the first time you've done Worlds, or have you done it a couple times?
That was my first time doing it, and it was very surreal because going into that show, I wasn't expecting to win my class. Honestly, I didn't. It wasn't that I didn't believe in myself. I'm pretty realistic about the caliber of athletes that compete at Worlds. So going into that show, my biggest hope was that I would at least be top three in my class, but I wasn't expecting to win the whole entire thing.
Yeah, we actually followed a lot of your kind of prep process, Eddie, and saw you did multiple shows last year, and you won. I think, did you win all of them?
I won all of them except one. I did a NPC show. It was a 2 day event. It was a drug tested and a open. They had an open event the following day. I competed in both. I won the natural one, and then I went to the overall in the untested, and I got I believe it was second place, if I remember correctly. Because for those shows, they don't give you the placings; they just announce the overall winner. And I remember I messaged one of the judges, who was one of the promoters, and I asked him how did my score look on the scorecards, and he said it was second place in the overall. So that was pretty cool. I was happy with that.
Yeah, that's a heck of a season, man. Incredible. And as Eddie said, he's a world champion. His first time being at Worlds, and if you take a look at his Instagram, you can 100% see why he won the World Championships. An absolutely phenomenal physique you have, Eddie. So give us a little bit of your background, kind of how you got into bodybuilding and when you really started to think, you know what, this is for me. I want to compete. I want to see what I've got.
Yeah, I started. Even being younger, anytime I would see anybody that was just jacked, it was to me fascinating. I was like, I want to be like that. I want to be somebody who walks into a room, people look at that person and say, "Damn, that guy's jacked. That guy must lift." The appeal of having that reaction from others, it was attractive to me. So I wanted to be that person. So I started lifting weights at a very young age. I was probably about 12 or 13 when I first started lifting, and I started taking it a lot more serious when I was about 16 years old, and it just kind of progressed from there. I never had any intentions or goals or like aspirations of being a bodybuilder, anything like that. Just liked the enjoyment of it. I fell in love with that aspect of it, of the lifting, and then the dieting came later on. As once I actually learned about bodybuilding, what bodybuilding was, I started looking at a lot of like pro bodybuilders. I used to watch guys like I remember watching guys like Dorian Yates, a lot of the old school guys. I used to watch a lot of the old school guys, and I used to think like, wow, these guys are at the top, or were at the top at one point when they were doing this. Whatever it was that they were doing was working for them. I want to do that. I don't want to necessarily be an IFBB pro. Those weren't really it wasn't really like something that I wanted to do. I just wanted to be like, I wanted to put in that same level of work, whether it be with the training, with the dieting, and just see how far I could take it. And that's what kind of led me into doing my first show when I was about 19 or 20 when I did my first show, and that was a very spontaneous decision because I didn't have any plans to compete, but there was a show that was going to be done here, like locally to me. It was just like a 30-minute drive, and it was a natural event. And I was like, perfect. Like I'm a natural guy. I like to lift. I want to test myself. So I got a coach. I signed up and I did that. I won that show, and that was pretty much from there. I was like, oh, cool. Like I kind of got that. Like I got bit by the bug. I wanted to compete again, every so often and see how far I could take it.
That's awesome. So obviously you followed some. You said Dorian Yates and some of those like some of the all time greats. When you first got into it, did you know like that natural bodybuilding was an avenue, or is that something that you kind of found out later on? Because I know for me, it's like I just got into lifting because I like lifting, and I saw the guys on Muscle Magazine, and that was kind of like my inspiration at first. But that's not necessarily directly achievable for naturals. And then later on in my early 20s, that's when I kind of first found out about like some of these natural federations, and that's kind of similar to me. I was like, well, let me just give this a try. I've been training, so started taking my diet more serious, and that's kind of how I got started there. Was that like something you found early on, or what did that look like?
I remember, so when I first got into lifting and I started bodybuilding and all that, it was around the time that like the social media era kind of began. So it wasn't how it is now. Now you go on, like, everybody's into fitness. At the time, there were some guys who claimed to be natural. I mean, you guys might have even heard of some of these names. Guys like Simeon Panda back in the
Mhm.
day was like, one of those, like, you would see a lot of those names, and I used to see that they were natural. Yeah, Ulysses. Yeah, man, those guys. But then you would see those guys get those like accusations of they're fake natties. But then I remember I saw. I remember when Doug Miller was going to compete in 2014. He was going to do the Yorton Cup, and he was in prep. And I didn't know who Doug Miller was, but he started making like these waves online, like because he released some progress pictures as he was getting ready to compete, and they kind of just like went viral. Like Doug Miller's making a return. I was like, I don't even know who Doug Miller is, but he looked insane, and that to me was like, okay, this guy's actually natural because he's competing in a federation that is a natural, actually drug tested, polygraphed organization that has that reputation, and so do all the other guys that were competing there. So I remember following that prep, seeing how he looked on stage, and I was like completely blown away that anybody naturally can look that great. And I remember after he did that show and he won it, he won the Yorton Cup. He did it was like an NPC Jake Cutler Classic, I believe it was. And for that show, he also won. I remember he did a video where he was doing like a backstage interview with Cliff Wilson, who helped him prep for, I don't know if it was for one or both of those shows, but Cliff was with him, and that's where I was like, oh well, this guy, that's his coach. That's what introduced me to Cliff, because I saw who Doug was, how great he looked. This guy was helping him, so that's what I started learning more and more about what natural bodybuilding was. That it was this actual thing. That there is a whole separate community for. You look at the guys like the enhanced guys, which I'm a fan of that as well. But then you see there's a whole different side of it, the natural side, and then you start to see you start learning about a bunch of other natural athletes that look great, and the guys that Doug was competing against, like I hadn't heard of any of those guys, so that kind of led me down a whole different avenue of bodybuilding, and I fell in love with natural bodybuilding then and there because from the very beginning, I never had any aspirations to ever go enhanced. Even now, after doing it for almost half of my life, I can say pretty confident that I doubt I'll ever go enhanced. I mean, I've been doing it long enough, drug free, naturally. I love it. I love the lifestyle. I just don't see myself ever going enhanced.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eddie, too, because I think when you first get into lifting and you see these guys that they claim natural and you're in your early years, you think there's no way those guys are natural, right? But once as a natural, you've kind of put the years in and you maybe get to year 6, 8, 10 of lifting. That's when you actually start to realize what's possible naturally, right? And now you've probably got guys that are looking at you saying, oh, there's no way he's natural, right? The new guys coming through. But what they haven't done is they haven't put those years in. So it's not that you can't achieve a phenomenal physique naturally. It's just that it's going to take you a whole lot longer, right?
Yeah, and that's one thing. Anytime anybody has ever looked at somebody who like take a great natural bodybuilder, you will have guys that will look at them and say that guy's not natural. That's not possible to achieve naturally. But the way I always see it is the people who are saying that they've never actually done what it entails to be a bodybuilder, whether it's the training, the dieting. Maybe they did it for a few months and they saw very little results and they were like, yeah, they just didn't have the patience. They didn't enjoy the process. The guys who do it for years and years and years, like they actually make it into a lifestyle, then they can look at somebody who has achieved something great in natural bodybuilding and they can be like, oh, you know what? I know that's possible because I've been doing it myself long enough. I've seen the progression over so many years and seen where I've gotten to doing it. I know that it's possible for others. You could kind of relate, I guess you could say. But the people who've never actually lived this lifestyle for more than a few months, and those are the guys that are looking at somebody and saying, "Oh, he's not natural," because they haven't put in the work.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually saw this yesterday as well, was you don't know how easy your training is until you train with someone that trains like an animal, right? So it's like everybody thinks they train really hard until they train with someone that trains really hard. And then they realize, maybe this isn't for me because I don't want to work that hard. So I think it's the disillusion of how hard people think they're working when they're really actually not pushing that hard.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I feel like when I go to the gym, most people aren't pushing themselves that hard. There are people who push themselves really hard, but the majority of people don't push themselves as hard as they think they are, or like they think they do. They may think they train hard, but even myself, I like to think that I train pretty hard. But even then, like a lot of the times when I'm in the gym, I'm thinking to myself, like as I'm doing a set, like, am I really pushing as hard as I can? Because there's like that pain tolerance. So when you're training, you start to feel that lactic acid build up in the muscle, and it burns and it hurts, and everything is telling you to stop. You just kind of have to find, like, you have to get over that mental barrier to push through that. And most people, once they start to get to that point, they stop, and that could be like they could have had like 7, 8 more reps in that set, and that's just another thing. Is definitely hard training. I do believe is like one of the like fundamentals into building a great physique, because I used to grow up thinking like the old saying was that training is like, or sorry, not training, dieting was the most important part. And I do think dieting is very important. They both go hand in hand. But now that I've been doing it so long, I actually think that hard training is more important, because you can train really, really hard and have a really shitty diet. You're still going to make progress. Your physique is still going to change. You could have the perfect diet and half-ass your training. Your physique is not really going to change, because you're not putting your muscles through what they need, like that stimulus that is needed for them to grow. So I do think that hard training is something that needs to be learned from like the very, very early stages of you getting into this lifestyle, because that's what's gonna, you're gonna learn from that, and you're able to apply it as forever, basically, into bodybuilding.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that's a big problem with like the younger generation now with getting into bodybuilding, is that delayed gratification side of things, where people just want to get on stage without like committing to the process of what it takes to get to that point. And training's a skill, so like learning to push your body to the limits and find what it actually takes to grow muscle naturally. It's a hard process, and most people really truly aren't cut out for it. Like they like the idea of getting on stage. When it comes to the process of actually putting on tissue, it takes time. And you see a lot of people that just try to stay, like, I would say, just too lean in the off season, and don't actually, they're overly focused on like the look and staying lean year round versus actually going through growth phases and committing to bodybuilding fully.
Yeah, and that's one thing. If you want to be a bodybuilder, you just have to enjoy the process of, you're gonna have off seasons, and you're gonna have to get your body fat a little bit higher, maybe a little bit more higher than you're comfortable being. But it's just what it takes for you to actually grow. I'm not saying you have to get fat. You don't have to go crazy. I mean, there's some guys that I know that do, and that may work for them. But you have to have the patience to have a long off season where like, I just got done competing back in November. It's been, I don't even know how many months now, and I'm probably like, I could see myself building up right now, continuing to push this off season probably till later this year, before, or maybe a few more months. I'll see how the body reacts, how the body responds, and then you kind of start to, bring the food back down. You lean out a little bit, but then you start to push it back up, until you decide when you want to compete again. And most guys, they don't want to do that. They want to compete every year. So if you're getting into this, if you want to do it because you want to compete, I don't know if that's the right reason to want to be a bodybuilder. You kind of have to just love the lifestyle of the dieting, the structure. Basically, it structures everything. Kind of structures around the bodybuilding lifestyle, the training, the dieting, everything structures around that, and then everything else comes after. If you want to compete, well, you can compete, yeah, but you have to plan it out. Like, oh, I'm going to compete next year or in 2 years. I want to do this show, and then everything that you do between now and the day you start that prep is going to determine how that prep is going to go and how you're going to look on stage. And you just got to have that patience. And like you were saying, a lot of these guys, they see the pictures of somebody that they look up to, that looks shredded all the time, like you were saying, and they're that's what they're infatuated with, that, like, that image of that appeal. But they don't know that it's a lot more than that. Especially if you want to do it naturally, it's completely different. If you want to do it naturally, as a matter of fact, I would say it's a whole world of difference if you want to do it naturally.
Yeah, 100%. Because if you're seeing these guys on social media that might be blasting gear year round, well, yeah, of course they're growing and staying relatively lean at the same time. But as a natural, that's not going to happen. You've got to be in that slight surplus. You've got to be really pushing performance in the gym in order to make those gains. And we tell everyone all the time, I'm sure you're the same, the clue is in the name, right? It's bodybuilding. It's not body competing. It's not the goal is to build the body over time. And stepping on stage just is basically resembling the fact that you have actually improved your physique. And it's amazing how many people kind of compete year after year and there's no improvements. And you think, at what point are you going to take the right steps, take the time off to actually improve your physique?
Yeah, and if you look at like the really good natural bodybuilders that are competing like at the world's level, a lot of these guys are taking like multiple year off seasons before they compete again. Like one guy that comes to mind is this guy from Germany. His name is Benjamin. I don't know how to say his last name. I don't want to say it wrong. It's Schuster, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
That guy, he competed back in 2023. I remember he did really good at Worlds. He made it to the overall. He won his class, went to the overall, and he fell short. That was 2023, and so like he's still in his offseason. This guy's gonna come back. Whether I don't know if he's competing this year. If not, then I'm sure probably the next year. But like that's when you really want to accomplish great things as a natural bodybuilder, you have to love it. Because if you don't love it, if he didn't love bodybuilding, he wouldn't have stepped off stage at the world's off the world stage and said, "Oh wait, I'm gonna take a 3-year off season. I'm gonna come back completely transformed, and I'm gonna win this whole thing." If you don't view it that way, you're never gonna make it really, because the guys that want to compete every year, they're gonna come back, and the progression is gonna be so small. They're basically the same, and that's just especially when you're young. If you're younger, like you want to take advantage of those long off. Once you get a little bit older, like in your later 30s, it makes more sense. I can see why these guys only do like a 1, maybe 2 year off season. But when you're younger, especially, man, like take advantage of that time to have that long off season to really put on that quality tissue and just enjoy the off season, man. Like really, really enjoy the off season. Me being where I'm at right now in my off season, like this is what I like fantasized about when I was in prep, because I enjoy competing. I do like to see the product that I've made, but for me, nothing beats feeling big, feeling strong, having a lot of energy, and just looking forward to going to the gym and just absolutely just like crushing it. That's the part of it that I enjoy the most, more than competing. So just enjoy the off season.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think when you get switched on to the lifestyle of it, that's when like things really start to unlock for you. Because you see a lot of people, like I said, that just don't want to take those off seasons because they're worried that they're gonna lose the drive or something like that. But it's like if you're truly passionate about the sport of bodybuilding, it's like the off season is the fun part. But kind of transitioning from that, I am curious, like how for you in your off seasons, what does your off season look like as far as like the training side of things, like training volume, intensity, things like that, and about like how much over stage weight do you allow yourself to get? Like, what's your sweet spot for performance in the off season?
Right now, I want to say I'm roughly just over 30 pounds above stage weight right now. I might not push it too much more. And well, I guess we'll see. We'll see, because the last time I was in the off season, the heaviest I got was probably about 10 or 11 pounds heavier than I'm at now. That was the biggest I've ever been. I was about 215. I remember walking around. That was like the biggest I've ever been. Right now, I'm maybe like 204, 204, 205. And I competed at Worlds. I remember I woke up that morning and I was about like 172. So I would reckon that I probably stepped on stage about like 174 after having, like a little bit of fluids, a little bit of meals. I was probably on stage about 174. But I try not to push it too extreme with the weight gain in the off season. Try to be mindful. And what was the other part of the question? You asked me something else about.
Oh yeah. So you're like, what's your training look like also?
Yeah.
Well, just in general.
Yeah, it doesn't change much, honestly, but my training has always been pretty high volume. I feel like the longer that I've been training, it's funny. It's like my approach to training just kind of changes over time. Like I've always been a high volume guy. I've always enjoyed high volume, but now the way, like when I go into the gym and I'm doing a set, it's like I feel like, man, I could only do like 3 sets of this. I don't know if my body just can't take as much volume as I used to do, or maybe I'm just pushing each set harder than I used to push it in the past. And I feel like I think it's gonna be the latter. Like I'll be at the gym and I'll have to do, like yesterday I was at the gym and I was doing I did legs yesterday. I remember I had to do 3 sets of hip thrusts, and like by the time I started, like I warm up, I build up to the first set, I did the first set, then the next. By the time I was done with my third set, I think I had been on the machine for like 40 minutes, because like I'm walking back and forth. I'm putting plates on the machine. I'll do a set. I'll rest. I'll do the next. Like I'll be at the gym for 3 hours doing legs, and I did I don't know. Like I don't really count my sets. I don't, but I definitely not more than 20, and that'll take me like 3 hours because the rest periods take so long. So the volume is, I would say, it's maybe on the higher end for most people, but I try to keep the intensity to match it. So I would say I've always been a high volume guy. I don't like to do anything the below 2 sets. Like I don't do anything for a single set. I just can't. Like if I go to the gym and my program says do 1 set of whatever it is, I'm basically gonna treat that like a feeder set, like a warm up in a way. Like okay, 1 set. But if it's like in the middle of my workout, if I have to do like leg extensions, and Cliff obviously does he designs all my training, and it'll say like 1 set of leg extensions, I'm gonna probably do like 3 sets. Just because I'm like 1 set just doesn't feel like enough. But I feel like at this, I've been training so long that I know when I like how much I can tolerate, how many extra sets I can do in a workout. Because one thing that I've always done in the gym is I will always add. I've always found myself adding extra volume a lot of the time. Like if I'm doing lateral races and I would do 4 sets of lateral races, I'm like 4 just doesn't feel like enough. I feel like I could do another 2 sets. So that's one thing that I've always done. Like all the years of training, I've always had that habit of adding extra volume. I've always been a higher volume guy. But going back to what I was saying earlier about like my training kind of like my approach changing a little bit over the years is I find myself doing that less and less now. And maybe it is because I'm pushing myself a little bit harder during those sets, like where I just don't feel like I could tolerate so much extra volume. I don't know. I just, like I said, it changes over the years.
Well, yeah, I would completely agree that we're very similar to that as well, and I would agree with the second part of the statement of your work capacity increases, right? So your ability to stay in the set and potentially like I don't want to say grind out the reps as if execution drops or something like that, but just your ability to hold position and push the reps that once upon a time you wouldn't have been able to push is just adding that extra fatigue, which means
Mhm.
I don't need to do that extra set, right? And something that
Yeah.
we're always big on with people is it's not about inherently how much work you can do or how many exercises, it's the quality and effort that goes into those exercises. And that kind of goes along with your statement of taking 3 hours to train legs. It doesn't mean you're doing every single leg machine in the gym. It just means that your working sets are so intense, so much effort that you're having to rest, I would imagine, 3 to 5 minutes between those sets. And then when you factor in all your warm up sets to get up to those heavier working weights, it just takes a long time, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like that couldn't be any truer. I do think like doing a set now, especially for legs, man. Legs is different because you do a set and it's like you have to be in that set, and that's kind of a. I've always trained legs pretty hard, but even more so now, I have to be a lot smarter in my approach now because I'm more prone to injuries now. So like I'll do a set, I have to control the weight, I have to move it with intention, and I have to milk the muscle for basically everything that's there. I don't push to failure on legs for the most part, but I push close enough where it feels like I get out of the machine. I'm like I'm dying. I can't. I feel like I can't breathe. So definitely, the intensity and the effort of the execution, everything like the set has to almost feel like an experience in a sense where you go into it and you're gonna be in this like almost in a different world where like until you've racked the weight again, you're not you're in that set. You gotta stay in that set. You gotta not lose sight of what you're doing in that moment. That's almost how I treat sets for legs. I mean I would say for really anything, but for legs it's definitely different because it's just so taxing, so fatiguing. Where like I'll do a set and I feel like man, how am I gonna do the rest of this workout? I still got to do hack squats later on. I'll be like thinking things like that. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through the rest of the workout, but definitely the fatigue has wore more and more on me now than it used to when I was younger.
Yeah, I think it's just like the skill of lifting. Like as you get more skilled at training, like the intensity just increases, and you just naturally don't need as much volume as you did when you're younger. Because I can remember, like high school and like early 20s having to do supersets of everything, chasing palms, and just run around the gym like a madman. But that's like when you don't really know how to train properly. But as you get more skilled as a lifter, like I think naturally just volume tapers down a little bit because you're getting more effective reps.
No, I agree. I used to train like a maniac when I was young, and that's part of the reason why I get so many injuries now. I think is because of that. Like my connective tissue on my knees is fucked. My low back is always bugging me. Like I was at the gym yesterday, and I get like sometimes I'll get like a sciatic pain on my right side from an injury that I've had for many years. So like every time I go into the gym and I start building on something like right now I just programmed hack squats back into my leg days, and I'll do them and I'm like, like I want to push heavier, I want to push for more reps, but I also got to listen to my body now. So, but no, definitely the intensity is I mean, intensity is always key, no matter what. But it's like you could do intensity, but you could get under the bar and you could just bang it out recklessly, just throw caution to the wind and just bang it out until your body stops working. Or you could control the descent on the hack squat. You could like just explode out of the bottom and then control it back down. And just almost like I was saying, you're like in a trance, like this is like okay, you down up, make every rep look good. That's definitely different than just going to the gym and just banging it out like without regard to how execution looks.
Yeah, it's a good point. I've actually recently just had hack squats. I just rotated them out of my leg day split, but I ended up moving them onto the back end of my training sessions because I felt like if I was putting them on the front end, I would just go to a point where load was so heavy that I was kind of running into knee issues and stuff like that. So I think you just have to get more strategic about like the selection of exercises and where you're placing them
Yeah.
as you get a little bit older by the time catches up to us.
Yeah, and I think I want to circle back to something you said earlier when you were talking about being above stage weight. For any of our listeners that potentially are new to bodybuilding, when Eddie says he's 30 pounds above stage weight, it's important to remember that this is coming from being inside out peeled. Striations all through the glutes, about as lean as you can really be. So, the first 10 to 15 pounds comes back on and not much really changes, right? Like you're still very lean, and even being 30 pounds, I'm sure, Eddie, you're still walking around leaner, far leaner than the majority of people, right? Because people just massively underestimate the amount of weight they have to lose to get to that level of leanness.
Yes, and another thing to keep in mind is when you do transition from prep to off season is like I put on those 30 pounds over the last 5 months. It wasn't like, oh, I put on 30 pounds. Like there's guys that'll put on 30 pounds like
In 2
a
weeks.
month. Yeah, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say that I didn't struggle a little bit after my prep. I really tried to pull back on how much weight I was gaining, but it was like I want to say for like the first like month, maybe 2 months, I was gaining like 4 pounds a week, and it was a lot faster. Like that's more weight than you want to gain in a week. I mean, they say the proper way to do it is to reverse, and I out of all the preps that I've ever done, I've never had like a perfect reverse where I put on like I slowly started to put that weight on. It's always been a struggle for me with because you're like, oh, I have the freedom to eat again, so you know, I try not to go off the rails. I try to control the binging, but I was putting on like 4 pounds a week, and 4 pounds is not like crazy. I saw some guys that were like you were saying, like within 2 weeks they were up like 25 pounds. It's
Yeah.
crazy, but I mean I'm up 30 pounds, and that's over the last like 5 months now. So obviously once I kind of got things under control, you enjoy like the first week you have a little bit, you enjoy a little bit, you go out to eat a little bit. Then after that, you kind of just try to get things on lock, and then you try to put on like slowly, like gradually put that weight back on, not just stuff your face and just be a fat fuck. You got to be mindful of like this is gonna set your off season, man. You got your off season is gonna be determined by how your body starts to adapt back into that phase when you start to eat more and reintroduce more food. So just don't blow it. I know it's hard, man. I mean, it's coming from me, man. Trust me, I've struggled with it myself, but
I do too, brother. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's hard, man. And I feel like that's something that most people don't talk about. Like I had a really hard time with it, and I've done multiple preps, and I've always struggled with it. Like it's never gotten easier for me. I would say it wasn't the worst that I've had, but I still struggle with that even now.
Yeah, I think reverse dieting is harder than prep personally. I mean, not like the back end of prep is brutal for sure, but like I think the discipline. I've never really
Hmm.
struggled with the discipline of like getting to the stage. It's the phase after that I think is so challenging because like there's no deadline, right? Like there's no deadline.
Yeah, yeah.
Standing on stage exposed and like having to be
Well,
in and out peeled.
well, and when you felt like shit for so long, you just want to feel good, right? It's like I
Yeah.
just want to get back to feeling good again.
Yeah, and then for me, it's like I eat and I'll oh, I earned it, I deserve it, I deserve to eat a little bit of extra food, and then I just feel like shit because I like mentally I feel like shit if I eat if I go crazy after a show. I feel like shit because like I'll say mentally. So physically, yeah, maybe I'm gonna gain X amount of pounds, put on some fat, some water retention, but I feel like I probably do more harm to myself mentally by bringing myself down than the damage it does to my body physically, if that makes sense. Because I put so much pressure on myself and I'm so hard on myself that if I start to binge, I'm like, why did I do that? I'm like, man, I have no self control. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm supposed to do better than this. So that's another thing that I battle with too. Is it's like it's like a double edged sword. It's like I wanna treat myself a little bit with extra food, but if I go overboard, then I just feel like shit mentally. I feel like a loser. So it's just it's one of those things that I'm still getting a grasp on and getting better with. Maybe my next prep it'll be better. I don't know. I thought it was gonna be easier this last prep, and I still kind of battled with it at the end, or after prep. But especially with Worlds being like during the holidays, it ends like the week of Thanksgiving, and then you have Christmas, and then so it's like you just want to like eat constantly. But I think right now I'm at a point, and this has probably been for like the last month where my appetite is like completely back to normal. Like it's crazy. I'm only eating 440 carbs a day right now, and I have to drink like 70 grams intra workout just to meet my carb intake for the day because I just don't want to eat anymore. Because it's like I got it out of my system. I'm like my hormones are back. Everything's like back to normal. Just I don't even want to think about food these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think there's that stretch after prep where it's like you do need to go off the rails a little bit to like enjoy yourself, but it's like a lot of that's just like water retention anyways. Like if you get back on track and slowly reverse the right way, and it gets better every prep. I dude, I've butchered every reverse diet I've ever done except for this past year. But then like we got out of prep at the end of September, I think. Then we had a bodybuilding show that he promotes over in London that I was helping with. So we were over there for a week and then came back and it was like what Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year. So it is challenging. Like if you run a prep that time of year, you come out of it, it's like, all right, don't touch the Christmas cookies. It's impossible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You gotta find a balance. It is what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, you once you get through it, you get back like into your off season, things start coasting again. You're good. I mean, I enjoy it. Right now, I feel like I'm thriving right now. My strength is going up. I feel good. I saw this is where I wanted to be when I was in prep. I used to just think about like, just to be like in that part of the off season where, I know it's gonna take a few months to go like from being like inside out peeled to being in a phase where I'm eating enough food that I feel strong, I feel satiated, and my progress is like progressing linearly. My overloading, or sorry, progressive overload is everything is like firing on all cylinders. I'm getting stronger by the week. Lifts are going up. That's what I enjoy the most, and that's where I'm at right now. So it's just a good place to be in.
Yeah, and something I remind athletes whether in prep is, if you can hold performance through prep, obviously you're not going to be increasing strength or whatnot, but you can hold performance pretty well as far as your strength numbers for quite a while at least. And then when you get into those last few weeks where everything sucks, remember that when you get in the off season, right? When you go into the gym in the off season and you're like, oh, I'm not feeling it today, this is going to be a grind. Well, remember how you felt when you were in the tail end of prep and you were still pushing. So think about what you can actually do now and take advantage. And I think the key for a lot of bodybuilders is not getting complacent in that off season, right? Is making sure that when you go into the gym, you are training with intent, you're training with purpose, you're training on a mission, and you should look like you're training differently to everybody else in the gym, right? I mean, as a bodybuilder, it should be very obvious that the intensity and effort behind your training is so different to everybody else in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like going into the gym and training, it should always be with like the thought in the back of your head of what are you really trying to get out of this? Like I think I want to compete again eventually. Maybe I was thinking 2028, I don't know, maybe like around that time, but I want to compete again. So when I go into the gym, I'm thinking about the next time that I step on stage, I'm gonna look better. So it's not a question of, oh, am I gonna look better? I don't even ask myself that. I know I'm gonna look better because what I'm doing in the gym every day, what I'm doing, what I'm eating, my meals, it's all gonna compound for a better overall look. So I always think about that when I go. like, all right, you got to train hard, you got to push yourself hard, never let your foot off the gas always, because it's, some people may struggle with this. I don't, but like they might go into the gym and they just might not want to push themselves hard that day. You know, I'm always thinking about like what I want to achieve next. Where do I want to be the next time I compete? So I think about that. I go into the gym and it's like balls to the walls every workout, and even to the point where I have to pull back sometimes because I'm like, oh man, like I start to feel really run down. Like, okay, I think it's time for a deload. I've been training way too hard the last several months. I really got to pull back, but that's because just holding myself to such a high standard of always feeling like I have to, like there's just no breaks. That's why when it comes to like, even speaking on that, just to touch on that, when it comes to like taking a deload, I don't even do like a week of light training. I just take like 5 days off of the gym because I can't go to the gym and say today I'm only gonna lift 40 or 50% of my weights. I like that sounds horrible. I don't
Sounds
want to.
awful. Yeah, it's so hard
It
to do.
does, yeah. Yeah, I'd rather just stay home for a few days, let my body rest, and then go back and then just kind of start to build on a new program or something like that. But that's because I enjoy training that much. That's also another thing. Is I just really enjoy the training part. Going to the gym to me is like it's like the best part of the day. So if I can't go in there and I can't train balls to the walls, like I'd rather just not even go that day.
Yeah, I want the listeners to take note of that because a world champion is telling you that it is okay to take 5 days off of the gym, right? You get those people that, oh, I can't miss a day. I'm going to lose all my gains or whatever. It's like, no, you actually being rested is going to help you grow so much more in the long term.
It's hard to like for those of you guys out there who really really enjoy training. It's hard to take even just a few days off of the gym. Like every time I finish a training phase, I usually do my training phases for about 12 weeks with Cliff. Every time I finish a training phase, he'll always tell me, take 3 days off before you start the next phase. And even those 3 days off for me, I'm like, I'll take one day off, and I'm like, I think I'm ready to go back already. Like I don't want to take 3 days off, but there have been times where I'm like, you know what, maybe I do need to give my body a bit of a break. Let me just take the 3 days off, and it's almost like I'm forcing myself to take those days off. But like I said, when I start to feel like my body, like if my connective tissue starts bothering me, or I feel like I might get an injury, my body just starts to feel like susceptible to an injury, then I will. Okay, I need to take a deload. I need to take a break, and it's just live to lift another day. Don't go to the gym and get hurt or your progress. You don't want your progress to regress because you're not giving yourself enough time to recover. So it's just one of those things to think about. And the longer you train, the more you start to realize that about yourself. Like when you start to see those signs that your body needs to just needs a break, a little, just needs a few days off.
Yeah, I think that's something that comes with age too. It's like I used to really struggle with the thought of like taking time away from the gym that you're gonna like lose progress. And but typically what I do is I'll plan my deloads around like trips I have and things like that. So I'm just naturally having to like step away from the gym. And in the past, I'd be like, oh, if I take 5 days off from the gym, I'm gonna lose all the progress I've made. But typically I'll come back to the gym and I'm actually stronger because like the tissue and everything's repaired, my body, like my CNS restored, like I'm in a good spot to actually push again. And my sessions are like I just feel rejuvenated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for me, it's maybe every like it's not very often. It might be every like 4 to 6 months where I'll find myself taking a deload. I mean, I see for some people it's like every 3 months. I could probably go, like you were saying. I think with age, it definitely does come with age. Like the longer I've trained, the more I've trained now, I do start to see like just little signs where I feel like I was earlier when I was saying that I need like longer rest periods. Like on leg day, I'll be there doing a certain movement for like 40 minutes. It's because the rest periods just need to be so much longer because it could be just because I'm pushing myself harder than I used to. I don't know. I think that's what I would want to say that it is. But definitely listen to your body because you can only take so much before things start to fall apart, man. That's me right now, especially with like I always feel like I'm like so close to getting injured these days, at least, just because I've been pushing so hard. And it's always one thing or another. Like for me, like my knee, the connective tissue in my knees, it starts to bug me. If I build like on like I'm doing hack squats now, I feel really good. Like I was at the gym yesterday, I did them, I felt really good. But I'm on week 3 of this program. By like week 7 or 8, after like every week trying to push it a little bit harder, the hack squat, whether it's more reps, more weight, I start to feel wear and tear where I'll get done with the program and I'm like, okay, I need to cycle out the movement and replace it with something else, or just to maybe take take it easy on leg day for like a week or two, just to kind of give that connective tissue some time to repair itself. So it's just one of those things that I personally battle with.
Yeah, I love that, and I do think it is like very individualized. You know, some people need it sooner, some people need it later, some people enjoy taking them, some people hate taking them. You know, and it's just. And the other thing is, make sure you're actually training hard enough to need it. You know, there's a lot of people taking deloads that probably don't need to be taking deloads. Eddie, one thing I wanted to go into was, you know, when a lot of people get towards the tail end of prep, especially maybe like the last 4 to 6 weeks, they start looking too far ahead. They start thinking past the show, you know, when really you need to be taking it day by day. So what would be your advice to any kind of person that struggles with that is just what's your daily mindset when you're in prep, especially when you get to the end, and just focusing on the day to day and not getting too far ahead of yourself?
Are you talking about like transitioning from prep to like off season?
No, like, so if someone's 6 weeks out from a show, but they're starting to think too much about the show or too much about, you know, what they're going to do after the show, rather than just staying in the right mindset to finish the prep strong, you know, taking it day by day.
Yeah, I guess think you gotta like going back to earlier. You gotta think about why it is again that you're doing this. You know, for me, like I guess I can only talk about how it is for me. So every show that I've done, I don't I guess I really don't think about what I'm gonna do after the show. I just focus on that moment. Like, am I doing everything that I could do to show up my best on this day? Everything that's gonna happen after the show, that's like that day's gonna come. I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about what I could control leading up to the stage. I gotta get my steps in, or I gotta do my cardio. I gotta eat my meals. I gotta go train. I gotta pose. I have to pose. Like fuck, I hate posing, but I have to do it. I go to the gym. I come home. I'm fucking tired. I don't want to do shit, but I gotta pose. I'm thinking about the things that I could control, everything that I could control leading up to that moment. Everything, like I said, after the show, what happens on the day of the show, who shows up, what the judges think, whose physique they like. None of that really matters right now. It just matters like that I could control what I'm doing right now, leading up to that day. And that's how I treated all my shows last season, because I always kind of felt like I wasn't that good of a bodybuilder when I was in prep. I always felt like, man, I'm gonna show up and these guys they have better genetics than me or whatever it is. So I gotta make sure I go to the gym. I gotta train super hard. They're probably training hard as fuck too, but I gotta go and I gotta push myself hard. I gotta go and I gotta pose. I don't want to pose, but I don't want to be on stage. I can't even hold a pose, so I gotta practice my rounds. I got to make sure that I'm getting my cardio in. I look at myself. I assess my physique like every day. I was like obsessed with doing everything that I could do and how that was gonna translate to the stage. That's how I treated my shows. I wasn't thinking really about like anything really after the show. I honestly didn't even cross my mind when I was like going into a show, because I was so like focused on just doing this. Like what the things that I could control are what I would focus on. The things the things that I can't control, it's just I learned that from Cliff actually. It's just don't focus on the things that you can't control, man. Just what you could control, focus on that. Because I don't want to show up on show day and feel like I didn't do something right. I don't want to be like mad at myself because whether I cheated on my diet or I was too lazy to practice my poses, whatever it was. Because then I would feel defeated, because I would just feel like that's on me. I made those choices that ended that got me there. But if I showed up, I did good. I looked good. Whether I won or not, I looked good. I did what I had to do on stage. I would be happy with the outcome regardless, or at least I mean I won most of the shows, so it's easy for me to say that I was happy. But even if I wouldn't have won some of those shows, at least I could say that I did everything I could to show up at my best leading up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I had a conversation with an athlete about that the other day. Like, it's so important to be realistic and have the mindset. It's like you can't control who shows up to the shows. You can only control the work that you've done, the daily deposits you put in over the prep. Like at the end of the day, like you can sleep well at night knowing that you did everything, you checked the boxes, and you brought the best version of yourself to the stage. And that's really what bodybuilding is all about. It's like bringing the best version of yourself out of the process. Like that's the most important part. And at the end of the day, it's like who shows up, and if you win, you win. But there's more to bodybuilding than being first place.
Yeah, and I guess the one thing I will say about bodybuilding too is that it's a very selfish sport. Everybody says that. Everybody knows that it is a selfish sport, and I agree. It's only going to be as selfish as you make it. But if you want to be really really good, you want to show up, and you want to look really really good, you're going to have to be pretty selfish about it. And that's just one thing that last prep for me was I I closed off a lot of the other things in my life just because I was so focused, like fixated on this one thing. And unfortunately for me, like I have a very supportive wife who she understands that. She knows how I get when I'm in prep. I'm like I'm dialed in, I'm focused. So she would do whatever she could to help me out with that. But it was hard for sure because there was just so many other things that I was like I just didn't want to deal with anything else. I was like I want to get my food and I don't want to leave the house if I don't have to just to go to the gym. I just want to eat my meals. I just want to do what I have to do, get through this day, and then tomorrow the next day starts over, and I do the same thing over and over and over again for the next several months. And that's how I was when I was in prep. That's how I am pretty much every prep, but last prep especially, man. I was just like, I'm gonna do worlds this year. I'm gonna do worlds. I'm gonna show up at my best, and I never thought that I was gonna win worlds, but I just wanted to do everything that I could in my power, everything that I could control to show up and just look good on stage. And I guess it was the that result of that, and having so much pressure on myself too, because I one of my like the things that I don't want to say it worried me, but something that I would think about was what if I show up to worlds and like I just disappear in the lineup, like they don't even notice me. Like I'm gonna leave that show feeling probably like extremely defeated. I wanted to show up and I wanted to look good enough to contend. That's why I said that I wanted to at least be top three in my class. I want to be a contender. I don't want to just show up and not be at the top of my class. So I would think about that a lot from like the very very early stages of my prep. I would think about that. Like a year, I guess like a year ago from now. So like the earlier stages of that prep, I would think about that, and it would drive me to just do everything that I could in my power, just hit everything hard, everything, my training, my dieting, uh, everything. So it's just one of those things.
That's awesome. Yeah, and as you said, you weren't expecting to win worlds, so now that you did, what is the future? You talked about coming back in maybe 2028 to compete again, obviously with an even more improved physique. Will it be trying to defend that title that year? Kind of what's your plan for the future in your natural bodybuilding?
100%. Now that I know that I did it once, and I see the I see that it was like the potential was there all along. I never saw it. I would look at myself and I'll be like, man, I don't look nowhere near as good as some of these other guys that are going to be there. Now that it's all said and done, the dust has settled. I won. I'm like, I that means I could win it again. That I don't know who's going to compete the next time I do it. It could be a completely different, like it most likely will be a completely different lineup. Maybe some returning guys, but you just never know. The only thing that I can do is from now to then, is just keep training and doing everything that I did the last time I was in the off season to show up and hopefully, be a contender once again. So yeah, I would like to show up and hopefully win again. But then again, like I think about that. Like I don't want to show up and let's say I show up. Let's say I do worlds again. I show up and I don't even make it to the overall. Like let's say I fall short in my class and there's just maybe like second or third place or something. I don't want that to make me feel like I'm not good enough, because I think about that now. I'm like, I won it once, but what if I show up and I don't win it again? It's like I know how it feels to win it. Now to show up and not even make it to the overall, like how would that make me feel? It's gonna make me feel like just like I'm not good enough. That's how realistically how it's gonna make me feel if I showed up if I didn't even win my class. So I just take it every day that I'm in the gym and I think about things like that. Those kinds of things are in the back of my mind. Like when I'm doing a set and it's gonna be hard and whatever it is, I'm always thinking about things like that. And those are the things that really drive me, that propel me forward with everything that I do with bodybuilding.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's so key. Is anyone listening is your thought process going into the gym, even if the show's 2 years away, that's what you're going into the gym for, right? You don't wait until you get in a prep and say, okay, now I'm going to start training hard. Everything you do immediately after getting out of show is geared towards getting ready
Mhm.
for the next one, right?
Yeah, man. It starts the day you step off stage. Really,
Yeah.
that's the day. Like the day I stepped off stage for Worlds, man, I was so fired. I was like on cloud 9. And I was so fired up. I was like, I just want to start my off season like literally tomorrow. I want to go back to the gym tomorrow. I mean, I didn't do that. I think that took like 2 days, and then I went back to the gym. But I was already thinking about like the next time that I compete, and that's how. If you want to be, I guess especially in natural bodybuilding because it's just so it takes so much longer to just to make the progress. But if you want to achieve greatness, you kind of got to have that approach to it. You got to think about it like that, where you got to hold yourself to a really, really high standard. And if I didn't hold myself to such a high standard with, like I was saying, like the training and everything, and all the variables that I could control last year, I would have never won worlds because, like I was saying, going into it, I wasn't thinking like, well, I think I might win. I might have a shot at winning. No, it was like, man, I hope I can crack top 3 in my class. So I did everything that I could leading up to that, like leading up to the day of everything that I could control, that I could do to the best of my ability. I'm gonna do, and whatever happens, happens. So me having that approach and that way of thinking about it is what ultimately led me to winning my class and then the overall because of doing every like just putting all that pressure on myself, like just be good enough, just be good enough to be on that stage, and it went from I hope I'm good enough to like I'm the best. So that it took a while for that to sink in, but it was definitely a great experience for me as well to kind of tell myself like give myself more credit, and I still kind of struggle with it honestly. I still kind of struggle to give myself more credit. Like I have this joke where like I have the glow that they give you when you win worlds. I have it like in a acrylic case here in my house, and from time to time I'll see it on the mantle where I have it, and I'll tell my wife like we're living in a simulation because there's no way that I won worlds. Like there's no way that I was that good enough to win it. You know, so like that's really how that's how I kind of view it. I'm like, how did I win it? Out of all those guys that were there, they all looked amazing, and I won it. I was like, this isn't real life. So it's just like never feeling like, oh yeah, I'm good. No, it's always like I could be better, I could do better, I could be better. That's always kind of that's just the way my mind operates.
Yeah, it's a fine line between staying hungry because you know you can improve, but also realizing that you are obviously really, really good at the same time, you know?
Mhm.
But as often I think as bodybuilders, we negatively talk to ourselves, not because we actually feel negative about ourselves, but it helps us have that drive and motivation to go into the gym and push ourselves as hard as we need to. Because the minute you start feeling like you're the best and that it comes easy or whatever, that's when you take your foot off the gas. You're gonna get complacent with your training. So just that thought process of, yeah, I want it, but I'm still not at the level I'm capable of being
Mhm.
at, is what allows you to continue to drive to get to that next level.
Mhm. Yeah, and having high expectations of oneself. I don't want to just win worlds once. I want to win it a second time, a third time. I want to win it multiple times. So that way I can look back and be like, the first time wasn't an accident. Like this, like I'm really that good. And I mean, I would have to have another really good season like this for me to actually feel like I'm a great natural bodybuilder. And I won worlds once, and I'm like, I must be pretty good at doing this because I won. But even now, I still like feel like I could be better. Like I could accomplish more. I just have to continue doing what I'm doing. Really, I can't say like, oh, I'm gonna train harder in the gym. Like no, I already train hard. I've always trained hard. I can't say that I'm gonna train harder this off season, the last off, because I already do that. It's just continue doing what I'm doing, continue stacking the days and coming back and see what happens. So
That's awesome. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask you. So obviously in this era of like social media, with there's so much comparison, there's so much information out there. It's like it can get overwhelming, especially I think for the younger guys like interested in getting into bodybuilding. Like, what's like one massive piece of advice that if you were starting out, you would give to others? You feel like it's beneficial if you're just getting into the bodybuilding world naturally for the first time.
just I guess just let me see. What would I tell my younger self? just enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. Fall in love with the process. Like really, really enjoy the process because if you don't enjoy the dieting, the training, and you're only thinking about how you're gonna look on stage, well, you're gonna look like shit because you're not really passionate. You're not putting in the best effort at the things that actually matter, which are what you're doing when you're not on stage. The things that really matter are what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You wake up, you should already know, all right, today I have to eat this much food. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to train this. Tomorrow, I'm going to train this. The following day, like you should already have your whole months outlined of what you're going to train. Your the diet, obviously that changes. That varies. It's like it might change week to week depending on your goals, but you already have an idea of what you're doing. So you gotta enjoy that process. If you don't enjoy that part of it, or you don't know what you're doing, like get a coach, figure it out, ask somebody to help you, get a coach or teach yourself. I don't know, like there's so much information out there, like you were saying, but kind of do that. Go through the days with a plan, have a structure around what you're doing, so that when you do compete, you know that you did the right things, or at least to the best of your ability, to show up and look good. Have a respectable physique. How you show, like, thinking about show day, it's only as important as everything that you did to get there, man. If you didn't do anything to show up, it's gonna show when you go on stage. You're gonna like disappear in the lineup. Nobody's gonna like talk about how great you looked. Nah, man. You want to make yourself proud by doing all the things that you could have done. If you don't feel proud about what you brought to the stage, then maybe you got to ask yourself if you really enjoy if this is really for you. So just yeah, have high standards for yourself. Try to put in the work every single day, and so that like I said, you can be proud of yourself.
Yeah, that's sound advice. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like the show day and prep is it's revealing an accumulation of hard work that you put over the course of several years or more to get to that point. Like it's the pinnacle of maybe 5 to 10 years of hard work, right? It's like nobody that gets on stage and does very, very well just decided they were going to get on stage and did a couple months prep. It's been years of compound interest, dues paid over the course of time to get to that point. And that's why it's such a out of body experience, I think, that first time when you do it the right way.
Yeah, and then you do it once, and you'll realize if this is something you want to continue doing or not. Over the years of going to the gym, I've met a lot of people, and especially now, I meet a lot of younger guys in the gym, and some of them they talk the talk that they like training hard, they enjoy the lifestyle, they want to compete, and then you give it a few months, and like I don't even see them in the gym anymore. So it's not for everybody, man. Like, don't try to force it on yourself. You give it a try, do it, and if you like it, just pursue it, man. Just do it. Do what you see when you see other people that are doing that are better than you. Do that, and like so these younger guys that like they'll come up to me in the gym and they'll ask me how long I've been training, and then I tell them how long I've been training, and they look at each other like like they're shocked. I'm like, yeah, that's how long I've been doing it, and because I enjoy it, I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else. Like if I didn't have bodybuilding, I don't know what I would be doing with my life, but I love it. I enjoy it. So if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard to make this something that you pursue for a really long time, especially natural bodybuilding. And I'm assuming that most of the viewers of this podcast are natural bodybuilders. It's like you got to be in it for the long haul. If you don't want to be in it for the long haul, then just this is not for you. Because I've been doing this for 15 years, and even after all these years, I still feel like I could achieve more. Like my physique is just not good enough. I always thought that maybe someday that was gonna go away. Like maybe after training for like 7, 8, 10 years, I would look at my physique and be like, oh yeah, my physique is nah, man. You're always gonna raise that bar, always, and that's actually a good thing though, to actually raise that bar, because then you're just gonna hold yourself to a higher standard every time. You're always gonna want to like pursue more. So it's also, you kind of got to have that about yourself. And that's maybe not, that's like something that you could apply to so many things. It doesn't have to just be bodybuilding, but it's something like that you have in you, that you want to pursue greater things, whether it's in your career, in your business, whatever it is. You want to accomplish great things. And then it goes hand in hand with bodybuilding. You look at your physique and you're like, you start to look at your weak points. Like you look at the gaps in your physique and you're like, no, I gotta work on this. I gotta take an off season to bring this up. So it's one of those things that's like the way you view it, your mentality with uh, how you view, I guess, the world. It's gonna really have an impact on your bodybuilding if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, completely agree. That's really, really sound advice. Eddie, man, you've been a phenomenal guest. We've really enjoyed your insights, and I'm sure that the listeners are going to get so much value out of this.
Yeah, thank you so much. Is there you want to plug yourself on social media so people can follow you and find you?
Yeah, it's I'm just on Instagram. It's Eddie__1995.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend you go and check out Eddie's physique and some of his training videos because he's an absolute beast and very inspiring to see. So it's been a pleasure, Eddie, and we look forward to seeing your progress over the next couple of years and then seeing when you run it back, man.
For sure, man. Thank you guys for having me. I love talking about bodybuilding, especially natural bodybuilding, just the training, the lifestyle, the mentality. I've been doing it long enough now that I'm starting to feel more and more like I have maybe something that I could share with others. So anytime anybody asks me if I want to come on their podcast and talk about bodybuilding, guys, like I love to do it. So thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, you've been a great guest. We appreciate you, brother.
Of course, man.
Talk soon.
Yeah.